White people can't experience racism. What?
I disagree. Hello guys, welcome back to the Mad Box. Now the topic of racism has always been a pervasive one. Everyone's talking about who can and who cannot experience it, and I've always been fascinated by this conversation. So in this video, I'll be reacting to someone who doesn't think you can be racist toward white people, and toward the end, I'll share my own personal experience with this topic when I was in college. Let's jump right into it.
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Leanna. Today we are going to be tackling the subject about why racism towards white people just does not exist.
I don't like to judge people by their looks, but I think this girl would definitely call the manager on you for messing up her pumpkin spice latte. And if you called her a Karen for calling the manager, I bet she'd call you racist.
This is not a video addressing people of color at all, because I just can't do that.
I think she's vegan. She's definitely a vegan.
So as someone who has and who tries to have conversations about racism with other white people, I find that the biggest obstacle I come across is white people thinking that we can experience racism ourselves. It's almost like coming up against a giant roadblock. Stop here, go no further.
The irony is the only person putting up roadblocks is you. If you're unwilling to have a conversation or understand where people are coming from when they say they've experienced racism, I think that itself is a roadblock.
As soon as we feel that we are also being oppressed, it's almost like that's when the centering happens. That's when the over here, me too, I'm also a victim happens.
I don't think white people who state that they've experienced racism want to be victims. I think that they want people to realize that racism can go in both directions. After all, anyone can hate anyone.
For example, the Black Lives Matter movement, it's something that addresses the issue of systemic anti-Black racism that is pervasive in our society.
Wait, what? The Black Lives Matter movement is a scam that manipulates people's emotions and gets them to think a certain way. Like, do you really think that crime in the south side of Chicago would go down if we decreased the number of police? Really think about that. Now, the media definitely does cherry pick the stories they want to elevate and the stories they want to ignore. For example, take the case of Tony Timpa, a white man who was killed in a very similar way to George Floyd. Interestingly enough, Tony Timpa didn't get riots and protests, and he definitely wasn't buried in a golden casket. I wonder why that was.
The All Lives Matter movement didn't exist until Black Lives Matter existed. That is a direct response to Black Lives Matter to say all lives matter. All lives matter is basically saying, but what about me?
Well, no, all lives matter just means that we're all equal, and as I mentioned before, the media specifically focuses on certain stories because they want to evoke a certain emotion out of people. A lot of times this comes right before an election season.
It's like, well, this is what I read in a dictionary. Discrimination on a person based on skin color, based on race. That's a huge problem. To rely on a dictionary definition in this day and age for something horribly complex, don't you think that that in itself is a problem?
No, I don't think it's a problem. Up until yesterday, racism meant treating someone differently because of the color of their skin. It's people like you who want to be confusing and change the meaning of words around to fit your own agenda. And imagine the audacity to tell people that they're wrong for citing something they literally found in the dictionary. Like, I can't.
But racism, more importantly, is also systemic and it's institutional. This means that racism has permeated every corner of society.
The problem I have with this claim is that when people cry out systemic racism, they very rarely define it. It's just this very scary sounding thing people love to throw out there. And whenever we do get an example of supposed systemic racism, the thing in question usually isn't even racist.
More and more Black, Indigenous, and people of color were being stopped on the streets for no reason other than a racist cop, and charged and put in jail at increasingly higher rates than white people. It's estimated that 1 in 3 Black men will face an arrest charge at some point in their life in the US, with Black people overall 6 times more likely to be imprisoned than white people after having committed the same crime or no crime.
Now, I definitely think we can have a conversation about why more Black people are in prison, why there is so much crime within our communities. I think a perfect explanation for this would be single motherhood and how father absence has a negative impact on a child's development. Children raised without a father in the home are more likely to run away, become teenage parents, and commit crime. So as I said before, I think that focusing on father absence would be a better use of our time. But of course, we're wasting that time by talking about racism.